Hello and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. On this video, we're going to talk about the match between Freebird Terry Gordy and Jack the Bomber Lord that took place on February. I'm not for certain now what that date was. It's sometime in February of 1996. It happened in Chattanooga, Tennessee at the Memorial Auditorium. I believe, if I'm not, we were the last pro wrestling match in Chattanooga, Tennessee at the Memorial Auditorium.
Yeah. Yep. We were it.
There is comments on the video, and we do appreciate you commenting. We'd love for you to hear your comments when we do read them. Now, it may take us a while to get to them, but we do read your comments. And let me read through a couple of these comments that was sent in on this video. One of them was awesome, but not to run your mouth with Terry Gordy in the building. Rodney, explain exactly what happened.
Well, we wanted to do a kind of a humongous thing. So we had the War Machine, and we wanted to make a rule because we always thought it was nonsense for somebody to be allowed in the ring with a hockey mask and all that other paraphernalia on it. You just wouldn't do it. And so he was going to try to wrestle with the stuff on. And that's when our father, Ron West, who was refereeing, stops the match and says, wait a second, you don't wrestle with that here. You either take that mask off and all that other stuff or you don't wrestle here. And Dad did a fabulous job. On that. He had to, if you'll notice in it, if you watch it again, he kind of edits himself because I think he was going to cuss. Which comes over great because I mean it wasn't pre-rehearsed, it didn't sound like rehearsed or written. He just said, hey, look, you want to wrestle here, you take that stuff off. Well, he didn't want to show his face or whatever, and so he leaves. So Jack gets in the ring and he's standing there, and ladies and gentlemen, here's your winner by forfeit, Jack Lord. And of course, I'm doing the ring announcing, and I said, "Here's your winner." And then he grabs the mic and he says, I didn't come here for just to win by a forfeit. I want somebody. You put me in this room with this lummox or whatever you called him, and said that if this guy can't read a rule, he doesn't know how to dress properly as a wrestler, and I didn't come here just to win by forfeit. Get me somebody out here. Well, at that point, Terry Gordy comes out, and then the match starts, and it's. And the people explode because Chattanooga is Terry Gordy's hometown, and that's who they came to see on that particular evening. We know.
Jack, what's your memories of that night?
Man, well, that whole night before at y'all's place, working over stuff, and then being there early and being there all day long. Catering was great, by the way. I still appreciate that.
Yeah, you know who was that? You remember who that was?
No, I don't remember who it was.
Pease Restaurant.
Okay. Yeah, I just remember it being so good. But yeah, it was. I love this match. And to be honest, I don't think it was the best match we've ever had. We had a lot of matches over the course of my career, and this one wasn't a bad match. I get a lot of compliments on it, and I appreciate that. But to me. We had a lot better matches, and that was nothing against me or Terry that night. I just my level of being pleased with myself wasn't quite there. I guess because I was so tired.
Yeah, it was a long day.
Like I say, we had been there, and that was either the first or second of 3 matches that I wrestled that night too. So yeah, it was a tiring day, but it was fun. Man, it was so much fun. We did so much stuff. I remember losing Terry that day, and we were trying to film and do some pre-tapes for interviews and stuff, promos, and we couldn't find him. And we were all 3, and plus your dad, going out looking for him. Nobody could find him, and I'm going down the stairwell, and I smelled something. And stepped out the back door, which the back door is right on the street. I mean, there's a tiny little sidewalk.
Yeah.
And I look out, and Terry's standing there, and a police car stops about the time I walk out the door. And I'm thinking, we're going to get arrested. And Terry just never puts it down. Just leans over, and they roll the window down and say, hey, Terry, you going to be at whatever club it is tonight? And he said, yeah, I'll be there. He said, "Oh, we'll see you then." On we go. I thought he could kill somebody in this town and get by with it. But it was fun. It was fun. It's the first time I'd got to see Terry in several months, and yeah, it was a great time.
Jack Murray said, "You better watch out, cause I'm a war machine." Michael Warren said, he said, "Hey, that's Steve McGarrett in the ring." Here's what I wanted to talk about. The people had said some things about Terry Gordy on this show, and they said he wasn't in the greatest physical shape. He lacked intensity and drive and work rate that he possessed. This is what gets me: is they say before brain damage. Jack, you worked with Terry. Do you remember any brain damage of Terry Gordy?
Now, I won't say it's brain damage. He had a little neurological issue from overdosing. He did, on the flight back from Japan. It was a scary time. He didn't. There was no issues in the ring. There were no issues in the ring. Terry was always Terry right up till the end. He was great. When he passed away, it was a true shock to me. The only thing Terry had issues with was doing the interviews. He told me, he said, my brain works faster than my mouth can put it out right now. He said, because I had to interrupt him doing an interview with Joe Pedicino that day or that night. And that was the thing he told me. He said, if I drag, he said, make sure you're there. And I was. Now, he still got the interview done. He still did it. I interrupted him just like I was supposed to, but he still got a good bit in of what he had to say and get over. He did that part. And in the match, man, there was nothing off about Terry. Absolutely nothing. And when they say he didn't have that intensity, you wasn't in the ring with him, buddy. I was. And I'm telling you, I was sucking air trying to keep up with him.
Well, many people don't know this because it's not covered in that particular match, but we had a very intense or strict rule system during these matches. You only had 3 rule infractions and it was a disqualification. There was no punching. There was none of that. So, and we were trying to make it as legitimate as possible. So no, he couldn't do a lot of the stuff if you're talking about using chairs and that kind of thing, because that could get you not only thrown out, but get you suspended. And that's the way we approached it, so that we had a real strict rules, so that later on when we had a no disqualification match or we had something break loose, it meant something. If you're doing it all the time, it doesn't mean anything. It's kind of like, it's kind of like eating cake every meal. It just does. Eventually, it just doesn't taste as good as it just having every once in a while.
I would try it though.
Yes, well,
now Terry and I also, especially when we wrestled each other, we enjoyed getting hit. I mean, that was just, a lot of guys in the wrestling business didn't like that. They wanted you to be light as a feather. I couldn't do that, and I didn't enjoy that. If I didn't feel it, I couldn't sell it. So I would tell people to do that. And Terry, he would get me booked to work with him before he went to Japan, because he had to get in that mindset, and he knew I did not care to get hit, and I didn't care to hit him back. And then when he would come back, it'd be the reverse. He'd have to learn how to lighten up just a little bit, and we could do that together. But, you don't kill each other. We weren't that night, but we were definitely laying some stuff in there.
It's sad because I dealt with Terry Gordy a lot during this point in time, and I never seen Terry Gordy. What people don't realize is Terry Gordy had started in 1976.
Yep.
But this time he had wrestled for 20 years. So when people say, "Oh, he lacks something," one guy said he was past his prime right here, and I don't think so.
No.
Terry Gordy did everything he was asked to do that night. He did everything that he was told to do, and to be honest with you, we did not ask him to do much because we were building to that. So Terrence Fulton said he's in better shape on this wrestling match than the Undertaker was when he faced Goldberg. I don't know what you're talking about.
He was in great shape because he had lost a lot of weight. He was having some serious knee issues. So later on in his career, when he, from this point on, he did slow down a little bit. it wasn't because the heart wasn't there and the mind wasn't there. It was because the knees weren't there, and he was struggling to get through, and keep his weight down enough to where he could avoid having those knee replacements. And the last time I talked to him, which was just a week or two before he passed away when we did the show in Birmingham, he told me that. He said, I've gone about as far as I can go. I'm going to have that knee surgery done.
So, to me, I work with them, and we appreciate everyone's comments, but I did want to point out that we dealt with Terry Gordy during this time, and by the time right before he passed away, Terry Gordy, I think his knees wasn't as bad of a shape as he was in before, and he could go. He could go. Charles Baker said that was a great match, by the way, on the thing as well.
Thank you.
Humongous. I mean, he and Humongous in Birmingham, that was an awesome match.
Yeah.
And I could have seen that going just super huge main event type match. They did a great job, and I told Dad when we left there, I said Terry was on tonight, and he was.
I just wanted to talk about that. If you've not watched the video, I will link it with this video. You can go and see the match between Terry Gordy and Jack the Barber Lord from February.
My awesome mullet that I had.
That's right.
February of 1996, United Wrestling, and we have a whole videos of those that we're putting together, and hopefully in the next month or so we'll have the whole video put together, and we will share that. If you like the video, give us the big thumbs up and subscribe to the page if you haven't already, and go one step further, hit that notification bell, and we'll see you on the next video on Pro Wrestling Inside and Out.